You know, in the mining world, cyanide is an incredibly powerful tool, but it's also hiding a pretty deadly secret. And that recent string of mining disasters, well, it turns out it might not be a coincidence at all. It could be evidence of a fatal pattern happening all over the globe.
And that's why some mining experts are now saying, hey, let's stop calling these things accidents. What they're arguing is that what we're witnessing is actually the completely predictable result of a system that is, well, fundamentally broken. To really get why they're saying that, we have to look a lot closer.
But to really get a grip on that system failure, we first have to understand the poison itself. I mean, how on earth can a molecule so tiny bring the entire human body to a complete grinding halt?
Okay, so it all boils down to what's essentially a power outage inside our own cells. To see the big picture here, we actually have to go microscopic.
It all kicks off with something called cellular respiration. Now, I want you to think of every single one of your cells as its own microscopic power plant, just humming along, constantly creating the energy that keeps you alive and moving.
All right, so here's the play-by-play. Normally, oxygen flows into that little power plant to get everything working, right? To generate energy. But when cyanide shows up, it's like a hijacker. It muscles its way in, blocks the door, and prevents oxygen from doing its job. The result? The whole power plant just shuts down. Instantly. And with zero energy being made, the organ that needs it the most, the brain, our body's command center, is the very first to go dark.
And this is the really terrifying, kind of mind-bending part of cyanide poisoning. You can be breathing just fine. Your lungs can be totally full of oxygen, but your cells are literally suffocating. They can't use a single drop of it.
So this complete cellular shutdown, it leads to two very different, very deadly outcomes for the human body. One is incredibly fast, and the other, well, it's insidiously slow. On one hand, you've got acute poisoning. This is a sudden, catastrophic collapse of everything. We're talking minutes. But then, on the other hand, you have this invisible danger, chronic poisoning. This is that slow-building threat, one that creeps up on you over years and years of low-level exposure. For that acute, fast-acting poisoning, the amount it takes to be fatal it's just shockingly small. Think about the weight of just 2 postage stamps. That's all it takes. But the scariest part for sure is the speed. It's all over in just a few minutes. But that slow burn, chronic poisoning, that's a whole different ballgame. It operates on a completely different timeline. We're talking about 10 years. For so many miners, that's how long they're being exposed, bit by bit, often without even realizing the full damage that's being done inside their bodies.
And look, the numbers here really tell the story. One study found that over a third, 34%, of miners had elevated and in some cases really dangerous levels of cyanide in their systems. So this isn't some rare thing, it's a huge chunk of the workforce. And you gotta remember, behind every single one of those percentage points are real people. People who are now facing severe and often permanent health problems. This isn't the kind of thing that just clears up. The damage can last a lifetime. Okay, so this brings us full circle, right back to where we started. The science is crystal clear, and the human cost is just undeniable. But what's the real cause here? Well, it's that unseen, systemic problem those experts were warning us about. So what exactly is this system failure the experts are talking about? Well, they say it's this toxic mix of corporate negligence, protective gear that just isn't good enough, and exposure routes that are everywhere, not just from touching it, but from the very air that miners breathe. And all of this is made so much worse by major failures in regulation. And all of this really leaves us with one final and pretty uncomfortable question. The dangers of this chemical are not a secret. They are well documented. They are known by absolutely everyone involved. So, when something inevitably goes wrong, can we really, truly call it an accident? Or is it something else entirely?